The idea for Lost in Her Mind came from a dream that I had where I was trapped in a situation that I couldn't get out of. And I remember thinking of a particular person in the dream that if I could only find them, they would help me. And when I woke up, the feeling of that dream was so strong. It wasn't just, waking up and being glad that the nightmare was over. I really, I couldn't shake it. And then it started to form into a story in my mind about a woman who's in a coma and who's sort of trapped there by unseen forces, and about a man, a special man with a gift, who could help her to get out of it. So that's where the idea for the story came from. And I want to donate my royalties from the sale of this book, and I have been saving them. It's just, royalty payments only come every so often. And I'm going to make a larger donation at Christmas time to a few organizations that help support women and children trying to get out of abusive situations. So please take a listen to the excerpts for Lost in Her Mind. Go to my website, check out the other excerpt that's there, and check out the buy links, and please consider buying it and sharing it so that we can help other people get out of situations that they don't think that they can.
You're finally awake. Carl smiled at her, his brown-eyed gaze dipping down to her bosom. The snake. Kaylee pulled the sheet back up to her chin. How long have I been out? You've been in and out for a day or so. You suffered a concussion. Doc says you're on the mend. He sat on the edge of the bed and ran a hand through his close-cropped black hair. A few bumps and bruises, but considering you drove your car right into an oncoming truck, you were lucky. Kaylee's hackles rose. Impossible. What? It's partially my fault, he said, trying for sincere but failing miserably. We had a fight. Old habits die hard, I guess. If I'd known you'd drive off, I wouldn't have let you go. Her eyes scrunched tight in an attempt to remember the argument. Muffled voices ran a sound loop through her head, but what was said remained unclear. She'd caused the accident? As a mother, she'd never be so careless. If she knew Carl, he wasn't telling the truth. What were we fighting about? She asked. And why would I be surprised? Arguing is one of the many reasons we're divorced. His eyebrows shot up in surprise. Divorced? The amused tone of his voice made her stomach churn. Yes, divorced. She looked heavenward, praying for divine guidance. Carl, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but I want to go home. Whipping the sheet aside, she grunted in pain from the effort to swing her bruised limbs to the side of the bed. Carl put an arm around her. Easy. You're supposed to rest for a few days. Flinching, she shrugged away from his touch. Then I can rest at home. Thank you for whatever you've done for me, but I want to go home and see the kids. She pushed up to stand on shaky legs. You can see them in a minute. They're all in the kitchen. As far as going home, you are home. What? Her gaze zeroed in on Carl. This is your home, Kaylee. We're not divorced. He reached up and gingerly touched the bump on her head. Guess you hit your head harder than anyone realized. They'd been engaged a year now, and since then, Carl's anger had surfaced with increasing frequency. Alex was proud of the way Kaylee stood up to him, even though he knew firsthand the stress it caused. There were days he wished her ex would drop off the face of the earth. A few days ago would have been a good opportunity, he muttered. He shouldn't wish ill on someone, but couldn't help it as his fiancée lay in a coma. He stroked the smooth skin of her temple. Oh, my love. he murmured, his voice soft and full of emotion. Their wedding was scheduled for a month from now. He knew he should call the caterer, the photographer, and the myriad of other people involved in making sure the day went off without a hitch. None of these things took up significance in his mind. He'd only left her side to eat or go home to change clothes. Thankful Kaylee hadn't been taken from him, he didn't care when they married as long as they spent their lives together. He glanced at the wall separating her room from Carl's. Why are they both still out? He wondered aloud. Alex pressed Kaylee's palm to his cheek. A feeling of fear jolted him upright. His heart pounded, his breathing labored. What the hell? Where was this coming from? He glanced at Kaylee's sleeping form, pressing her hand to his cheek again. The fear returned. The fog of anguish disappeared, and clarity opened his mind. What are you afraid of, darling? He asked, closing his eyes to concentrate. One word flashed across his mind. Carl. Why would she be afraid of him? He opened his eyes. Did Carl have some kind of unconscious hold on her? He certainly still had the ability to upset her in the waking life. Were they somehow connected unconsciously as a result of the accident? If so, could that connection be broken? The doctor said she could wake any time. Since the first moment he touched Kaylee 4 years ago, he knew they had a special connection. Somehow he had to get through to her to find the cause of her fear. Would he be able to use his long-buried gift? For Kaylee, he had to try.